I'm going to try to uncover the truth a little bit without going too deep in any direction today on how you can get better audio and how to fix what I just keep seeing on social media, YouTube, even short films, and a couple feature-length films I've recently worked on. Isn't this thing freaking amazing? I had to wear it for this video. I saw this over on the chair in the other room. The band Feel was here with Shift last night doing a music video for like a new song. And I guess they had this on their prop table and I was like, yeah. But also, it kind of matches what I'm talking about today because I'm talking about clipping audio and how much I hear it and how much people don't even realize they're getting it or why and how to fight against it. And Fur is a great way to do that with like lav mics and windscreens and all that. So let's just freaking get into it. I don't want this to sound like a rant. It probably will sound like a rant a little. I'm going to try to keep it educational. But quite frankly, I'm just a little frustrated with people. I get it. My shot doesn't look as good as other filmmakers, and my makeup doesn't look as good as makeup artists' hair and props and all that. But I think audio is such an important thing when it comes to filmmaking. And I know there's a lot of run and gun filmmakers out there that are like, they're sick. They're doing awesome things because they have like these prosumer mics you can buy. You just clip them on, press record, they connect to your camera, iPhone, whatever, and they start going. They're just rolling in 32-bit float, and pretty much that works. Like most of the time, just keep doing that. Don't change what you're doing. This video is for people who want to take it to another level because often you might hear crunchiness in your audio and you're like, why is that happening? The levels aren't clipping when I look at the waveform in my video editor or audio editor, because sometimes this happens to pro audio people I know and they don't. Anyways, they'll look at the waveform and they'll be like, it's so crunchy and sounds like it's clipping even though I don't see it clipping, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to try to uncover the truth a little bit without going too deep in any direction today on how you can get better audio and how to fix what I just keep seeing on social media, YouTube, even short films, and a couple feature-length films I've recently worked on. I think it's just important for people to learn how to get what they want and how to take their stuff to the next level. So let's talk about why you might be getting clipping audio. Even though your level on your recorder doesn't look like it's clipping, you can clip at so many different spots in the chain, let's call it that. So here I've got a recorder. This is a Tascam recorder. It's like a backup one that I use, but it has multiple inputs and then these gain knobs here where you can control the volume. And some people think that that's the most important and only thing to watch, which is just not the case. It is important because your best preamps are going to be in here versus like the preamps in the microphone or receiver that you might have. The transmitters that I have SD cards you can put in and just record to those. And it sounds pretty good, and I use it in a pinch all the time. If I'm doing, just a quick video where I don't want to break out something like this, it's perfect. But you have to remember that on a bigger set, when you're using like transmitters for your wireless packs or even just for your boom, there's multiple things in the chain that can affect your sound. So here, let me grab these. This is a lav mic plugged into the transmitter. Now, the lav mic has its max SPL that it can handle, and if it goes over that, that's clipping the mic. The transmitter has gain that you can set. So you have to watch that and set that gain correctly. Then the transmitter goes to, it's in this hand. The transmitter goes to the receiver, which then has its own gain. And then the receiver plugs into the recorder. So that's already, if you consider cables and everything, that's mic that can clip, transmitter that can clip, then the RF signal that can clip when it's talking to the receiver could clip, and then maybe you've got a bad cable between the receiver and the recorder. That cable could potentially cause problems, and then the recorder could clip. So that's all things that you have to consider, and that's just your microphone, and that's just your recorder. That's not even considering your room. So I just urge people to focus on that more, is check out your system that you have and and consider every part of it. Check where you're gaining things and what quality of cables you're using. This is called gain staging. It's maybe the best preamp, the best volume you're going to get is in your actual recorder. Well, don't feed quite as much volume to your transmitter. That's just one quick, simple hack. It's not always going to be the case of what you want to do. I'm going to go into gain staging and the different equipment and how it connects in another video. But for the sake of this video, please consider that as the first thing you want to check. Also, you need to make sure that you have good mic technique. Obviously, this is going to sound better than this, but sometimes this is all you can do. So you need to use the right mic for the right situation. Have a lav as a backup, but always use the boom first. Most sound people are going to tell you that. When it comes to sound, you want to pick the right microphone for the situation, like the subject, and then also for the room. There's going to be some reverberation in our room because we have not soundproofed our new studio yet. And I can hear the echo coming back at me, and that's going to cause some really bad overtones and harmonics in the room. You can get out of phase if you have two signals happening at once that fight each other. Usually if you have two microphones and they're not placed correctly and you try to play them at the same time, you're going to hear a weird like warping sound. That's probably the best I can describe it simply. That's when you're out of phase. You really don't want to have this. So mic placement matters. The same thing can happen with my voice can bounce off the wall that's right here and shoot back into the microphone milliseconds after it catches the sound straight from my lips. And if there's too much echo, those sounds are going to fight each other, cause bad distortion, and possibly clip. So just because your levels aren't showing clipping doesn't mean there's other reasons and ways that your audio might be getting degraded. How do you fight against this? We've got our mic, our signal chain, our recorder, all that we need to check. We've got the room and the reverberations in the room, which we can fight against by adding sound absorption. And you can do this on set. If you find a couple extra minutes and you're not, in a sprint, you can lay some sound blankets on the floor in front of a talking head, or you can invest in some silent props like plastic bags that aren't going to add rustle or just add to the noise. If possible, you can try to suggest a location that's not going to reverberate as much. Often you're not going to get to control all of this, but try to control it when you can. Try to remember that there are a lot of everyday items that you don't think about that add reflections to what you're doing. Desks. When we get our studio more built up, we're going to sound absorb the desk a little bit by getting a mat made out of wool so that we don't get that initial reflection from our speaker playback. There was a recent film I did where two people were sitting at a table talking, and you can just hear the table in front of them. And you can't always fight against that. I get that. And sometimes you want things to sound natural, but you want to make sure that you're aware of the reflections in the room and go through a checklist in your head. What can I fix? What can't I fix? And how can I fight against it versus actually change it? Maybe you can't remove the table that the two people are talking at, but maybe you can choose a different microphone or add a microphone. So in post, you have more options. Maybe you can throw a sound blanket up, or maybe on the close-up shot, you can actually throw down a diffusion pad that the camera frame isn't seeing. I mean, I know it sounds like a lot, but if you want the best results possible without having to do a ton of ADR or without having to without having to try to save the day in post, have some options ready and think about audio on set. That's what separates a good sound person from a great sound person. And filmmakers, videographers, one-man bands, you guys can do this too. It's not just the sound people. Another big thing that's obviously going to cause clipping is the rustling and contact that microphones can come into with wind and with clothing. So obviously we use something like a windscreen here, and you can probably hear the difference on this microphone when I use it. Just because you're using a cheaper or prosumer microphone doesn't mean you need to just use what they sell you in the kit only. You can buy furs, windscreens, windshields, things like that for almost every mic. And if you can't find something that specifically fits what you have, build it. So I have one. A lot of people use these like 2.4 gigahertz signal little like square clip-on mics that like Rode and DJI and other companies make. Those things are awesome. You know, they're kind of set it and forget it type things. They have a lot of auto mixing, which is actually saving the day more than 32-bit float, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Anyways, you can buy furs for those. I think my Rode one came with a fur. You can also go on Viviana or Ursa or Deity or one of the other companies that sells these different furs and diffusers. And like this, for example, you know, it's this type of material, and you can test some different things. You can build what you need. I've put a sock over a microphone before when I'm just in a pinch and I just need a little bit of grace from things like P's and pops and S's. Even though it's just low, medium, or high as your options, do a quick practice run, push it, yell into the mic, or get as loud as you think you're gonna get. You know, check if there's cars behind you, check the volume of those, get some room tone. Act like you're an audio person even if you're not an audio person, and eventually it'll start to catch on. You'll start to learn how to do it. You'll learn what works. Use the tools in front of you to stop this. It's things like sibilants and plosives mixed with contact with the microphone and then loud sudden sounds that can all add to poor sound quality and clipping. Think about how crafty filmmakers get. You can buy cheap material that's not marketed as light diffusion to diffuse your lights. I know filmmakers that do this all the time. I do it myself. You can do the same thing for your sound equipment. You can buy moving blankets, and yeah, maybe they're not technically the same as sound panels, but those are gonna be better than not having anything. You can also buy different furs, or maybe go to the thrift store and find something like this and cut it up and put it over your mic and take, I don't know, you know, fasten it there somehow. You can be thrifty if you want to solve these problems. Let's talk about 32-bit float. This is a hot topic. I know. A lot of people don't understand 32-bit float. It's sexy, float, 32, high numbers. The word float, which most people don't know what that means, it's not magic, but it is good. I use it. I have the Zoom F8N Pro, which does have 32-bit float recording. I just keep it on. Why the heck not? But I think what's misunderstood about it is that you can just not clip with it. You can absolutely clip with 32-bit float in multiple ways. So first of all, if you hit 0 and you clip on your recorder and you're like, oh, I can save that because it was 32-bit float and I can just pull it back down and post. Yes, but probably your microphone clipped too earlier in the chain. Probably. So you can't save that. That's baked in. It's tough to know how deep to get into 32-bit flow right now. I'm going to link another video in the description that does explain 32-bit float really well if you want to go deeper right now. Otherwise, I'll probably make a video in the future. 16 and 24-bit audio is recorded with an integer. It's accurate data. 32-bit float, the float literally means floating point. It uses exponents to calculate your data, and that's going to be less accurate than integer. I'm not going to go deeper than that, but if you clip and you try to pull the gain down in post on a 32-bit file to save it, you might be able to restore some information, but it's going to be less accurate and not sound as high of fidelity. So if you want good quality audio, I wouldn't rely on 32-bit float. I would just use it if you have it and hope that it can help you if you need it. Just use it as a tool. Focus on the gear you're buying. You don't need super fancy gear to get this done. You just need to know how your gear works and what it can handle, and then upgrade when you think you need to. Oh, I think my receiver will work, and I'll just upgrade my recorder, or maybe vice versa. I can get away with a recorder that has a little bit noisier preamps as long as I get a really nice mic or a really nice receiver that's just gonna send it a really clean signal. You know, if you're on a budget, you still have options. I would rather have a cheaper system that I know really well than a really expensive system that I don't know super well. And while I just prefer the expensive systems, of course, it just goes to show how important technique is over the gear that you have. Please try to stop clipping. I don't know. I don't care if you do, if it's like a YouTube video or a quick thing, but it's really distracting. And when I see people with good audio it's like, oh, those people are legit. I just assume that they know what they're doing. The people who casually joke that audio is overlooked are probably overlooking audio more than they even realize. I think even a lot of sound professionals overlook how important it is to judge your situation and go through a checklist in your head. The biggest advice I can give is to admit that you have more to learn. I try to do that all the time. I don't always get the best audio. Sometimes I have to clean up after other people and clean up after myself. It happens. It's just like video. You can overexpose an accident even if you've been doing it for a long time. I meet non-professionals, professionals, hobbyists, you name it, that overlook audio. We get a lot of bad audio that we have to clean up from films, short films, ads. It's just part of it. And sometimes even audio people on set can get a little bit lazy by not doing as much as they could have done. Remember that audio is half of the film. Video, audio. So treat it like it's half important. I don't know, that's silly to say. It's more than half important. I suggest getting it right on location. I know that's like the joke of the industry is, oh, they'll fix it in post. Yeah, it's funny, right? Like we get that a lot, but for real, if you want to level up and be a legit filmmaker, legit content creator, whatever you want to be, podcaster, the more you can get right on location, the better off you're going to be. Let me know down in the comments if you have anything else to add to this or something I missed that's super important. I know that this was just a quick overview and I can go deeper into these different topics, especially things like 32-bit flow. I know that's just a hot topic right now and a lot of people think it's magic. It's not magic, but it is cool and I use it. So let me know down in the comments what you use for audio, what's worked for you, if you learn any quick tips. I think a lot of people could really benefit from us just having conversation about what works and what doesn't. So until next time.